I arrived at the old inn on a blustery evening, wind howling down the empty street. The cobblestones underfoot were slick with recent rain, and the gas lamps glowed dimly through the fog. The heavy oak door swung closed behind me with a muffled creak. Inside, the lobby was warm, but smelled of damp wood and antique furniture. Rich velvet curtains hung heavy over shuttered windows, and an oil lamp flickered on the reception desk. The silence felt profound, as if the building itself were waiting. The innkeeper appeared from behind the desk, a thin man with kind eyes. He motioned me to sit, wordlessly handing over a steaming cup of tea. "You must be chilled through," he said quietly. His voice was soft and reassuring as he wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. Outside, the wind clamored against the window panes, but inside I felt oddly drowsy with the warmth. I studied the parlor around us, bookshelves lined with dusty tomes, an oil painting of a storm-tossed coastline over the mantelpiece, and a heavy grandfather clock ticking steadily on the far wall. Later, over a simple supper of broth and bread, our conversation turned to the night and my travels. I mentioned casually, "I've noticed this hotel doesn't list a room number 13. Is that common?" The innkeeper paused with a spoon halfway to his lips, eyes narrowing in mild amusement. He set the spoon down and let out a soft chuckle. "Ah, yes," he said. "It's an old superstition. Many travelers refuse to sleep in a 13, insisting it's unlucky. So we just skip it. The room after 12 is labeled 14. Our guests prefer it that way." His dismissal of the matter calmed me somewhat. The idea of a missing room sounded quirky, almost laughable. But as I walked to my room upstairs that night, the inn was silent and still, and that pleasant confidence faded. The corridor was long and narrow, the patterned carpet muffling my footsteps. The walls were adorned with faded wallpaper and old portraits whose eyes seemed to follow me. I stopped outside my door. Only 12, the brass plaque gleaming under the soft wall lamp. The next door was 14. The number 13 was conspicuously absent, leaving a blank expanse of wallpaper between them. I shivered, pulling my shawl tighter against an unseen chill. Inside, my room smelled of mothballs and old pine. The bed was neatly made, and a single oil lamp burned dimly on the nightstand. Outside the shuttered window, the storm raged, thunder rumbling distantly. I settled at a small desk and decided to write some letters to calm my mind. I poured a glass of whiskey from a decanter, a common comfort. The golden liquid burned its warmth down my throat, steadying my nerves. I reminded myself that all of this was silly superstition until I heard it. From the next room, behind my wall, a soft melody drifted through the woodwork. It was faint at first, like distant church bells, but then grew warmer. A slow, mournful violin tune, gentle yet haunting. Mixed with it was a low voice humming along. The words were strange, archaic, perhaps Danish, though I couldn't be sure. My skin prickled. It felt as if the sound seeped through the cracks, wrapping around me in the darkness. Goosebumps rose on my arms, even though I was indoors with the lamp on. I stood up, hand tightening around the whiskey glass. The music stopped as suddenly as it had begun, and silence fell like a curtain. Only the storm could be heard now. Wind in the eaves, rain pattering on the roof. I pressed my ear to the thin wall. A faint echo of humming faded, and somewhere past that, the distant clink of a glass. Someone drinking. My heart thumped. That didn't just happen, I whispered to myself. Was someone in the forbidden room? Just then, the corridor light outside flickered on above me. I took a breath and opened the door quietly, stepping out with my lamp in hand. The hallway was empty and eerily still. To my left was room 12. To my right, the wall was bare where 13 should have been. Only the door marked 14 lay down the hall. I shivered again. The silence of the hotel at midnight was unsettling. No servant dared wander these halls at this hour, and the innkeeper should be downstairs by now, I presumed, locking up. A faint sound from beyond room 12 startled me. Was it a low chuckle? I paused, listening. Then, closer this time, a rich, baritone voice crooned a lyric of that same old song. Soft, insistent. It came from the direction of where room 13 would have been. I spun around, surprised to see the innkeeper standing at the end of the hall, lantern raised. His face was pale and drawn. He had followed, having heard me stir. His eyes darted to the blank wall where 13 should be. Something wrong? He asked quietly, noticing I was trembling. I motioned him closer and lowered my voice. I thought I heard music, laughing. From here, I said, touching the wall with a careful hand. This wall, there's something, or someone. The innkeeper frowned thoughtfully. He listened for a moment, and even he paled. That tune, he murmured. It's from an old Danish lullaby my grandmother sang. A warning about a restless soul. I never expected to hear it here. He fetched another lantern and an old wooden table leg, abandoned nearby, and propped it against the wall, just where I had felt the sound. If there really is a hidden door here, we'll find it, I said, voice steady despite my racing heart. Together, we rapped on the paneling. At first, only the solid thunk of wood answered. Then, on the other side, we heard a slow, metallic scrape, the faint echo of footsteps pacing in a room that shouldn't exist. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Suddenly, a swollen, yellow hand burst through the woodwork, as if the door had materialized for a moment. It tapped the air impatiently. The fingers were long and blackened at the ends, curving like talons. My breath caught in my throat. I could not see the body, only this severed hand, wrinkled and ashen with age. The innkeeper gasped beside me. In that instant, a low, quavering laugh sounded from beyond the wall, an old man's voice that seemed to growl, "We come." I seized the innkeeper's arm. His eyes were wide with fear. We were rooted to the spot, staring at the hand. The hand retracted as suddenly as it had appeared, and the door snapped shut. Silence descended again, thicker than before. My heart hammered. My hands were trembling on the lamp handle. I dared not speak, afraid even to breathe. I heard footsteps in the distance. The innkeeper hurried off to fetch help. Within minutes, 2 burly hotel staff members arrived with their own lanterns and some metal tools from storage. I stood aside, convinced the thing might reappear at any instant. Together we formed a small party. Me, the innkeeper, and the 2 men. We lined up in front of the blank wall. My hands were sweaty and I could barely hold the light steady. "Ready," whispered one of the staff. We gave nervous nods. With a quick strike, the wooden beam clanged against the plaster wall. Again and again, the tools beat the surface, until one swing went oddly deep, with a dull thud, as if the man had struck stone instead of wood. My hand flew up to my mouth, as a cry of shock escaped from our group. The innkeeper staggered back. We all froze. Where a door had been, only smooth blank plaster met our eyes, cracked from the impact. It was as if the entryway had never existed at all. For a long moment, time held its breath. Outside, somewhere a rooster crowed, heralding dawn. The first grey light of morning began to filter into the corridor. "There's nothing there," whispered the innkeeper, eyes wide. "No door, no room. Number 13 is gone." The quiet that followed was immense and profound. Then, slowly, our group backed away as if breaking a spell. In the pale morning light, we now saw that both room 12 and room 14 had 3 windows each, and there was no sign of any extra space. The plaque for 13 was simply gone, leaving only smooth wall between 12 and 14. I felt an odd mix of relief and lingering dread. My knees were weak. The innkeeper put a steadying hand on my shoulder. "Perhaps it would be best if you didn't stay alone in that room tonight," he said gently. His voice held concern. "A double room, maybe." I realized I would prefer not to be alone. I nodded gratefully. He led me down the hall to a room labeled 14, where we found a modest double room for us to share. That night, though we never spoke of it again, I lay in bed listening to the silence. The innkeeper was asleep in the other bed. I stared at the wall where our door's number used to hang. Now it was blank, with only the soft wallpaper pattern for company. For a long time, I thought I could still hear the faint laughter at the edge of sleep. The ceiling light cast strange shadows that looked like creeping fingers, though when I blinked, they were gone. Finally, I drifted into an uneasy doze. When I awoke in the morning, the storm had passed. The inn was calm and bright. The innkeeper and his wife saw me off with warm smiles, though I sensed they were still unsettled. As I walked away, the old inn settling back into its quiet mystery behind me, I caught the first rays of sun glinting off the clock tower. The inn's bell chimed 8 o'clock. For just an instant, I thought I heard a faint, far-off whisper on the morning breeze. Like, comment, subscribe, and rest well. You've been listening to Lilith Sanctum. Until next time.